been inked, but despite the growing popularity of tattoos, the industry remains largely unregulated. And new research shows many inks contain known or potential cancer-causing chemicals. Ian Townsend investigates.
Hello, I'm Ian Townsend and welcome to Background Briefing. 2.7 million Australians have at least one tattoo, and about half of them got their first tattoo in the last 15 years. It's a pop culture phenomenon that's hard to ignore when you walk down the street.
I've got my dog's paw print.
Just a bit of a freestyle that my mate did. It's an eye surrounded by blue flames.
It's only a little heart. I had it done in Byron Bay.
I have my grandfather on my back. I have mum and dad on my hips. I have 2 swallows on each of my calves. I have an anchor on my ankle.
Tattoos used to be the trademark of bad boys, bikies and sailors.
All right, last but not least.
But celebrities, sports stars and 20-somethings have now made it theirs.
3 snowflakes, and then I've got my mum, dad and brother's initials in them.
It's not just a butterfly on the hip anymore, it's a full sleeve.
Everyone in my family has tattoos, so it's not really a big deal.
Any other tattoos you got?
I do have one on my back.
Can I have one?
Never above you, never below you, always beside you, brothers in arms. Yeah, me and my 2 brothers have got it as well.
Where did you get them from?
This one was done from Kat Von D's shop in LA.
LA Ink?
Yeah, LA Ink.
I was at his house. He had a tattoo gun and everything, so yeah. Got done for free off him, so that was pretty cool.
What we'll do, we'll get you in the right position first. So what you want to do is try and get that knee flat on the ground.
But things aren't as cool as they seem. Researchers overseas have been looking at what's in tattoo ink, and what they've found is ringing alarm bells. Mary Dingley is a Brisbane cosmetic physician.
Especially the US FDA at the moment has some quite serious concerns about carcinogens, so cancer-causing agents within some of those inks.
Background Briefing bought some tattoo inks from suppliers in Australia and asked the National Research Centre for Environmental Toxicology to take a look at them. It found compounds that are known to cause cancers. Environmental scientist Dr. Peter Neal.
Some of them are listed by the International Agency for Research on Cancer, benzoypyrene, which is a known carcinogen, and then there's others that are possibly carcinogens or probably carcinogens, and a lot of PAHs are in those groups.
PAHs are polyaromatic hydrocarbons, and they're potentially carcinogenic. The only black ink we tested, bought in Brisbane, had more than enough PAHs to have it banned in Europe. Researchers in Europe, the US and New Zealand have been finding all sorts of toxins turning up in tattoo inks. Marie Ledger is a professor of dermatology at New York University.
We look at the kinds of case reports of tattoo reactions, so we see all kinds of different things happen to tattoos. People become allergic to them. Tattoos, when you inject something under the skin, you're just giving the immune system an opportunity to have extended exposure with a foreign body, and all kinds of things can happen.
When you're getting ink done, you're also, your body goes into a little bit of shocking, you know, so your body's going to be kind of rejecting what you're putting into it too.
Itching up, obviously, and things like that. The worst one was the one on the back of my leg. I had 2 weeks off work because it was really bad, so it wouldn't heal, and it took forever.
There's no shortage of people with tattoos. In a park next to the ABC in Brisbane, we approached a number of people. Of the first 6 we spoke to, 3 of them had an initial bad reaction to a tattoo. 2 had been tattooed by friends or family who weren't licensed. And 22-year-old Kayla has a severe allergy to a small tattoo on her leg.
I'm allergic to pink, as I recently found out because I have a swallow on my calf, which was pink, and it's very, very bad.
What happens?
It actually just swells up, just like you've got a rash. And then what will happen is the skin will start to shed a little bit, so the colour's trying to come out through the skin, and it'll just keep shedding skin until the colour's out completely.
How long has that been going on?
That's been there since March. It's still trying to heal itself.
We worry about what we eat, and we take for granted that our drinking water's safe. We expect that the medicines we take meet high standards and that cosmetics won't poison us. But when it comes to tattoos, no one seems to know exactly what's in the ink. The Queensland representative of the Professional Tattooists Association of Australia is Mark Hopkins. You get your inks from a reputable supplier. Do you know what's in those inks?
Like, we buy them from the supplier who has, you know, contracts to supply from the big multinational. FDA approved usually from the inks. So, but we have seen the result of inks that aren't supplied by those approved suppliers, you know, so we've seen all different kinds of reactions.
We really don't know quite what is in them.
Mary Dingley is a cosmetic physician in Brisbane.
Because it's not like your cereal that you get off the supermarket shelf at the moment. They don't have all the ingredients listed in them, so often it's very, very hard to know what is in these inks.
Do you know what's in the ink at all? What ingredients?
I have a clue. Do you? No? I not have a clue, buddy.
To be honest, no, I don't. No.
Doesn't worry you at all?
No.
I've never thought about it, but I might think about it now.
Lay the trust in the tattoo artist. Like, 2 of my tattoos are done in, you know, quite big tattooist studios, so you would trust them. If they're on television, then you would trust them, sort of thing.
It's official. We're open for business, and my LA friends show their support.
The tattoo industry is booming, fueled by popular reality TV shows like LA Ink.
Pro BMXer Mike Escamilla suffers for his art.
Oh, I hate that.
Oh my God, it's been 5 seconds.
My artists stay busy making LA Ink their new home.
Tattoos started going mainstream in the 1990s, and by 1998, 10% of Australian adults had at least one. That jumped to 15% by 2006. Today, 30% of women in their 20s are tattooed. Maya Underwood researches tattoo trends at the University of Queensland.
So for the first time ever, women are starting to outnumber men in terms of tattoo prevalence. And it is my impression that it's not only a high number of young women, but the practice is changing. It's not just a butterfly on the hip anymore. It's a full sleeve and, you know, very visibly tattooed young women. So, yeah, this is what I'm trying to work out. What's changing?
What do you think it might be?
I interviewed a young lady today and she said that perhaps adopting a masculine practice makes women feel more equal to men.
And as more people get tattoos, more are reporting health problems, especially allergies. The demand for tattoo removal has also jumped. But despite its enormous growth, it's all poorly regulated, both in terms of the ink used to make tattoos as well as the lasers used to remove them. In Denmark, dermatologist Jorgen Serup studied 50 patients with tattoo allergies and found 96% of them were allergic to red or pink inks. These aren't trivial illnesses. One 38-year-old man had his leg amputated.
He was very, very allergic to the pigment. So allergic that it even attacked his normal skin. His wounds couldn't heal. Then he needed amputation, and it ended on his femur. So that was very tragic.
Last year, Melbourne schoolteacher Keita Ma got a small red tattoo on her wrist, the X and O symbols of hugs and kisses, dedicated to her family. Her allergic reaction was so bad, the ink had to be painstakingly removed.
The skin actually had to be burnt away and then lasered to remove the ink. We're now in the final stages. If there's any ink left, it'll just be minimal burning out of the skin and the ink, and I'll be left with scarification. So it'll be a tattoo without ink.
These allergies were once considered rare, but it seems not anymore.
Other people I did know of having reactions to tattoos or getting tattoos removed, so I guess I did know that going into it, but I'd had tattoos in the past and no reaction, so I guess I was a bit naive to think I'd be okay.
The high rate of allergies reported anecdotally around the world has prompted interest in research. In the US, dermatologist Marie Ledger, who also teaches at New York University, wanted to know how common these tattoo allergies were.
So we did a quick study in Central Park. We went out there a couple of afternoons, and my medical students did some interviews with folks. We interviewed 300 people that we encountered with tattoos and just asked them if they had ever had any kind of problems with them. And we just found these kind of chronic reactions that are itchy and raised and involve just one color, much more common than we had thought.
And how common?
Much higher than I thought. They're approximately around 5%. That's a pretty significant proportion of reactions. And, you know, that just kind of piqued my curiosity as a clinician, you know, how to be able to help people who have these reactions, but also what the heck is in these inks.
What's in the inks is hard to find out. In most countries, tattoo inks are considered industrial chemicals, and their ingredients are trade secrets. Some manufacturers release what are called material data safety sheets, but these are designed to inform workers about the safe handling of industrial chemicals like paints and solvents. The safety data sheets that Background Briefing's seen for tattoo inks don't fully describe the ingredients, and they don't address what the ink's really for. It's for injecting into skin. The US Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has now launched a probe into tattoo inks after a number of studies found high levels of heavy metals and carcinogens. One of those studies was done in Denmark by Jorgen Serup, a dermatologist at the Bispebjerg Hospital in Copenhagen.
We analyzed 65 inks and we found carcinogens in many of them. Nearly every black ink holds carcinogens.
That's alerted other clinicians in Europe, where 100 million people have been tattooed.
100 million. So that's a lot, and therefore it's really frightening that tons and tons and tons of ink with chemicals are injected into the skin. Nobody really knows what happens inside the skin and inside the whole body following this installation of chemical.
There are hundreds of types of tattoo inks for sale in Australia. Background Briefing bought 8 inks and had them tested. 7 were different colours labelled Dragonhawk, which we bought for $35, including postage, from a supplier in Brisbane. The other was an ink labelled Intense Banana Cream, costing $23. The ingredients listed on the Dragonhawk bottles were glycerin, alcohol and distilled water. That's all. We took them to the National Research Centre for Environmental Toxicology, known as MTOX, in Brisbane. The first ink MTOX analysed was the Dragonhawk black ink. The black in inks often comes from soot, which contains polyaromatic hydrocarbons, or PAHs. Dr. Peter Neal is an environmental scientist at MTOX.
We detected 6 PAHs above detection limit. Some of them, like pyrene, was found at quite high concentrations. What we found was we had a total PAH concentration just over 1 ppm, and this is double what the Council of Europe sets as their maximum PAH concentration in tattoo ink.
Many PAHs, or polyaromatic hydrocarbons, are known carcinogens. Dr. Peter Neal ran the inks through what are called bioassays, a process whereby the chemicals in the inks are applied to mammalian cells, animal cells, to see what effect they have.
So the assays are looking at things like genotoxicity and the formation of oxidative stress.
And that could potentially cause what sort of...
It can lead along down the line to potentially cancer or reproductive health issues.
Oxidative stress impedes the body's ability to repair cell damage. The results from the ink tests varied from colour to colour. Many showed high levels of cytotoxicity. That is, they had a significant damaging effect on the cells. The yellow and red inks proved to be especially toxic and in smaller doses than was expected.
So you didn't expect that stuff being so toxic?
So you didn't expect it to be this toxic?
No, we didn't. We had issues with cytotoxicity because we thought we needed to add more to see an effect. Yeah.
Peter Neal says the bioassays done by MTOX are breaking new ground. They're looking at how toxins in tattoo inks might operate inside the body.
I haven't seen definitely no oxidative stress work on tattoo inks. Some people look at cell cytotoxicities or just cell death with some of the inks, but as far as I'm aware, nobody has looked at this sort of range, and especially focusing on these early warning endpoints.
Those early warning endpoints refer to the points at which cells change to potentially cause cancers. Dr. Peter Neal is cautious about the test results because they're preliminary tests, yet to be repeated in the lab. But what they found was significant enough for NTOX to continue its research on tattoo inks.
It's only a preliminary study, though. There's a lot more work, I think, that we could do in this, looking at better ways to extract the chemicals, looking at different endpoints as well to sort of have a better understanding.
And looking at other inks would be interesting as well.
Certainly, yeah. So this is mostly the one brand plus another one. So, yeah, I'd expect that you'd find big differences with different brands.
We've put some of the NTOX test results, as well as the results of tests done overseas, on the Background Briefing website. Danish dermatologist Jorgen Serup says people need to know what's in tattoo inks.
We don't frighten them, but we simply inform them what kind of risks they're entering. And people really need to know when they decide to be tattooed, because nobody informs them now.
So far, there's been no published evidence directly linking tattoos to skin cancer. Jorgen Serup says this may be because the inks are placed in part of the skin where there are more fibres than skin tissue, which is where the cell division occurs.
And luckily, they are installed in the dermis, where there are few cells. In the dermis, it's mainly collagen fibers. It's quite inert, and to be a good carcinogen, it needs to be installed in a tissue compartment.
Allergic reactions to tattoo inks are common, and they range in severity. The colour that appears to cause the greatest reaction is red. Melbourne teacher Keita Ma has a severe allergy to a small red tattoo on her wrist.
I did opt to go for a red colour, and I've never had any red ink before. I don't know if that made a difference, but it could have also been the ink itself, because I did go to a reputable tattooist who I actually knew personally and had seen work from him on other people previously. And so all I can put it down to would possibly be the ink itself.
Outside the ABC studios in Brisbane, we spoke to Kayla, who has an allergic reaction to a pink tattoo of a swallow on her leg. It's raised and shedding skin.
It's really itchy. The pigment's starting to come out now. So it's getting there, but that's the only one that I've ever been allergic to out of all of them.
How long has that been going on?
That's been there since March. It's still trying to heal itself. I mean, at work, I'm always scratching it, and my friends just stop it because I actually have made it bleed before, so.
Have you thought about getting it looked at by a dermatologist?
No, because as I said, my brother's friend, he knows, he's been doing it for 15 years, and he said it's nothing to worry about. Just let it do its thing, it'll heal itself.
Kayla got her tattoo from her brother.
He sort of just diddles around for a little bit. He does it as a hobby. He does my dad as well, because my dad has a lot of tattoos. Everyone in my family has tattoos, so it's not really a big deal. He just does it for fun, really.
Anyone can buy the inks we bought online, and for another $35, you can buy a cheap tattoo gun and tattoo your friends or family. Fixing up bad backyard tattoos has become a big part of the business of professional tattooists. At Little Mix Coolsville.
Here endeth part 1